call the meeting order. Celeste, please call the roll.
Case, Jadish, Evans.
Here.
Kasserag, Leidig,
Here.
Mead,
Here.
Slivka,
Here.
Stevenson,
Here.
Stacking.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Very good. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Fourth item is approval of the minutes of the meeting of December 27th, 2018.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we have one public hearing this evening. It's a zoning ordinance text amendment, a request to amend section 11-6D-2 to expand the list of permitted uses in the B3 business district to include health and fitness clubs. The applicant is Justin Hines, Tri-City Land Management LLC. I'm not going to go through the procedural part because there is only the applicant and we know how to conduct the hearing. So I'm going to make it short and we'll hear from the applicant.
Should we swear this in?
Oh, yes.
And let's do our
We'll do the swear in, so that's the
Yeah.
one part we have to
And
do.
then I'll, contents.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
contents.
You have to do that.
Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very good. Okay, so next procedure is the contents.
Yeah.
The record.
The contents of the file is the application prepared by the applicant dated January 7th, 2019, and a memorandum from the Community Development Department to the Plan Commission which summarizes the request and provides staff's analysis, and a certificate of publication from the Daily Herald for the legal notice that was published on January 9th, 2019 for tonight's public hearing.
Okay, very good. All right, Justin, we're ready
So-
to hear from you now.
Little synopsis of what we have here. This is specifically in regards to the space at 207 South 3rd, right above the Livia Restaurant. It's currently a vacant space, and it was previously occupied by Strut. They had a little clothing store in there and a hair salon, a little boutique salon in there. So we were approached by Peak Fitness out of St. Charles. They're currently located in St. Charles off of Route 64 and 31, I believe, on the northwest corner. And they're interested in relocating their yoga studio to that second floor location above the Livia restaurant there. The current zoning doesn't permit that use there. It's a B3 district there, as we know. B2 allows health and fitness clubs. B2 sits directly across the street from this location. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to get that space, get the text amendment to allow the yoga studio into that space. She's going to have, if you are familiar with that space, it's actually previously was two spaces that have since been combined into one space. So she's going to take the south portion of that space and use that for retail, her retail component. And the north portion of the space will be for her small yoga classes, but we'll also have retail around the yoga studio. That's how the use was proposed to us, and that we are hoping to get that use allowed at that property, which is why I'm here.
Any questions?
Yeah. I'm concerned about parking and the amount of people that are going to be going, because at my fitness studio, that's always an issue.
So there won't, what I was told is it's a small space where she's proposing to have her classes, and the class sizes are going to be small.
What's small?
Well, she's not here to answer that question, but when we spoke with her, she had told us that it's approximately 5 people, 5 in the class. I can't really speak to that though because she's not here. If you can think of the room, I don't know if you've been in there.
No.
It's not a large room. It's a very small area. There won't be any more people that are in there that are going to the restaurant spaces below and next door. If you go down our street 2 blocks, we have Pure Bar Fitness down there. We have Fitness 360 on the other side of the street, a block down from Pure Bar. So we do have some other fitness studios within 2 or 3 blocks of this proposed location.
Have you ever taken a yoga class?
No,
Have you ever taken a bar class?
no.
All right, well, the equipment's different.
Okay,
And you can fit a lot more people with a yoga mat than you can with a bar.
okay.
So
Now,
that's why I'm asking, because that's the issue. Because if she's really good, you're gonna get a lot more people than you're anticipating.
so there is a secondary issue here that plays into the amount of people that would be allowed in that studio. And that secondary issue, which isn't pertaining to the zoning, involves sprinklers in that property. That property is currently not sprinkled. If she goes over the allowed amount of people from the previous user, I understand, with fire, she's going to need to, it won't work because we'll have to sprinkle the building. So we purposefully wrote a clause in the lease that says if we are required to sprinkle the building by the fire department because of the amount of people that has in her place, the lease is void, and we're not gonna pay to sprinkle that building. So I don't know if that helps with your concern as far as the amount of people, but there is that issue that will limit the amount of people that will be in her classes at one time.
And how many people will be handling like the boutique area?
I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, John.
To Cindy's point, page 1 of the staff report says that she anticipates offering 3 to 7 classes a day with up to 15 per class, so that would be 105 people.
That is my report, and I took that from her website. That's not her, that, she isn't directly involved in this, I mean, in the sense that.
Wasn't necessarily for this location then, that's kind of.
Correct.
part
This
of
is,
the application.
that's based on her website.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Regarding, so I put that as what I think is a good estimate. And if it's less than that, I was not privy, I didn't know that they had written this into the lease about the size.
Right. And
But yes,
obviously, if it's 7 classes a day, they're not going to be 105 people there at once. Probably be some early morning classes, maybe some midday and some couple evenings or something, right?
So what is the occupancy limit on that?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the occupancy limit is.
Based on that new configuration, you have to have the fire department
Right.
determine that.
Right, that I've been working, and prior to us going to discuss a lease with her on this, after she came and met with us, we called Dustin, and we talked to Dustin about the change of occupancy and what would trigger that change of use, and what would trigger that change of use. And that's where we talked about the amount of people that would be allowed in there up to a certain point, at which point the use change would happen and we would be required to sprinkle the building. And so that was what we went back to her with and told her, listen, you can't exceed this amount of people. And we're going to write that into the lease about the sprinklers, because we don't want to get stuck in a situation where you've exceeded that amount of people and now Dustin says you have to sprinkle the building. And so that's where that came from.
Yeah, ma'am.
Paul, could you talk about the ramifications of this elsewhere in B3? What are we opening up that could potentially be a problem on other sites?
Well, in general, our B3 is more of our retail-oriented for first floor. We do
Right.
have a number of non-retail uses not on first floor.
Right.
And there are some that are grandfathered in, that have been around for a while and might still be there. But in general, that's what we consider part of the uniqueness of South Third Street is the first floor retail, and that the people are able to shop along those stores. So that's what I would see. But we have other uses above and below those.
But this request is not specifically for above or below, it's just for B3 in general, so
Correct.
as requested, it would allow it on a first floor, which was now just retail allowed.
Correct.
May I ask you a question? So is this space considered a second floor space?
Yes.
So I don't know if I'm allowed to do that right here, but I would be fine with amending the request to second floor space only, if that makes it more palatable to the planning commission. I have no problem with that.
That would be more
I think
palatable.
that makes a difference, yeah.
If we got comfortable with the request in general, I was going to suggest second or subsurface floor. This building's unique in that it doesn't have street level.
No, it's either
Right.
Yeah,
below
it's
or
a
above.
lot of different levels, yeah.
That is,
But I do think walking the Third Street and having street level retail maintains the integrity of Third Street.
Right, that's
as we
important.
want, right?
I would be fine with that amendment.
Yeah, Michael.
So Paul, it's not permitted as a special use in B3 either at this point, is that?
that is correct. That's why we have to do a text amendment. That's correct. It's not even listed as a special use.
I don't know if even limiting it to a yoga studio is something that's possible as far as is instead of a fitness and health club. If you want to get more specific on the use, I'm fine with that too. I'm just trying to get this use in there.
Yes, John.
One of the concerns I had in looking at this space and knowing it could have ramifications down the street was also the nature of what goes on in the building. If it's yoga and quieter stretching, that's one thing, but if you're sitting in Livia and there's a Zumba class going on and your glass of wine is shaking with each, that's probably not friendly to the tenants or the clients of neighboring retail, right?
No, and we wouldn't want to do that to
As an owner.
our
Right.
big restaurant group downstairs, or
Right.
to
And there-
Jeff next door, or to anybody like
There are a
that.
number of restaurants along that stretch, so it might be worth considering limiting the type of use to the more, I don't know how you say it, quieter or pedestrian fitness activities.
Well, if we did it as a special use, then you could, in some places where that's likely to be a problem, you could limit it,
Could
and
deal
in
with it.
others not, because I don't have in theory, an opposition to
Right.
something that is a little bouncier. But are there any structural requirements for something like a fitness studio as far as the floor?
I think as
Or
much as
they-
the landlord would know. I mean, as far as for us, they talk about whether people are jumping or bouncing, and that would be the effect on their tenant, like Livia below. But I don't think there's any requirement for us. I mean, I think that people there, the occupancy.
Right.
Michael.
So I think the way, and I think that's a good point, because I think the way health and fitness clubs are defined, and this is just kind of paraphrasing the code, but including but not limited to weight machines, running, jogging, courts, swimming, aerobics, so a pretty wide range of activities that are allowed by the definition in the code. So I think limiting it, limiting that and possibly the special use gives you the opportunity to be a little bit more selective.
Cindy.
Yeah, I'd definitely be against health and fitness, definitely, because that would just be wrong.
It's too broad, so.
Yeah, way too broad.
And so if there's a way to, I don't know if that's an existing category, a yoga studio, or if you have to create I don't know how that works as far as how those categories were created and put in there in the first place.
Yeah, we're kind of, we tried to use the existing definition, so it's already in there. It's not saying that we can't say
Yoga
a
studio. 'Cause
yoga
I see some of
studio
those
and
things
have
are very
a
specific.
difference, but
Yeah.
we'd really, you're gonna have the first, I don't know, Zumba class or whatever come in and say, I'm just like yoga, I should be able to do this too.
Actually, they're not.
I'm just saying what people may say.
I would think
I
they-
agree with you.
Technically,
Okay.
no.
I would think
But
maybe
a
they'd
fitness
have,
class might say, what's the difference between
Stretching class.
yoga and bear, a bar class? I don't know myself, I'm in
I
Justin.
could tell you.
Okay, and I, no doubt that you could, but there's a lot of people that might say, are they close enough, so-
No.
Oh, okay.
I think they would probably have to come before you guys and I don't know. But again, I noticed some of those categories are very specific categories and some are pretty broad. So if there's a way to do a yoga studio on a second floor, non-first floor use, and amend that request to say that, I'd be all for that.
But I guess my question a little bit to you, Justin, on that is, with your tenant, are they okay with just limiting that, or are they counting on doing bar, yoga, all these other uses, If you come in and say you can only do yoga classes, and then they say, well, no, we wanted to do X, Y, and Z. So that's the only thing I wanted to, we
Yeah.
all have a good understanding of that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, now, if we limited it to the four you have listed here, yoga, ballet bar, core conditioning, and flexibility training, are there any of those that are likely to be a problem for the tenant downstairs?
Vibration or noise or music, I don't know.
No.
Cindy says no. Ron, you say yes? You think you would?
I'm not saying yes, but I agree. Those could be a question. I don't know the specific.
If none of those are a problem in terms of noise, bouncing, then why don't we limit it to those 4 that are requested? I don't want to have somebody not be able to run their business because they can't have enough variety to
Right.
have enough
Like,
volume to
yeah,
make it.
A class and something.
She's trying to replicate the existing business model that works.
Sure.
Yeah. So if those 4 things, Cindy, you don't think any of those would cause a problem?
No, but if you have aerobics and if you have
No, they're not on
Zumba,
the list. Yeah, right, I agree.
you're gonna have a problem.
But if we limit it to these 4 that are requested here.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of as low impact, I guess, is what
Yeah.
they're saying
No,
here.
no impact.
Low or no, no
Okay.
impact.
No impact.
Okay, okay.
And as far as it goes for our Livia tenant, there's clauses in the lease that if she does cause, even say she's in there doing ballet and it still causes problems for our tenant downstairs,
Ballet?
she's violating the quiet enjoyment of his lease.
Well, that could be an issue.
No, I know it's not one of the uses. I'm just saying as an example, if she's doing something, anything she's doing there, if it does cause a problem for him, there's protections in the lease where she's going to have to stop doing that. We have tenants that we have to go after legally with Doug Cascaden, our attorney, because they are causing problems for the tenant next door and violating their quiet enjoyment of their lease. And so those protections are built into the lease for that tenant.
So Paul,
Yes.
if we set this as a special use, then it would be decided on a property-by-property basis, right?
Yes.
That gives us a little more leverage to decide, is this an appropriate
Ye-
place within this district to have this use, right?
Yes, but I just want to, he's asking for it, if we do make it a special use on the second floor, tonight is not a special use application. In other words, it's only a text amendment. So I'm just saying, if we do that, one of the additional steps is he and his tenant do have to go back and make a special use application for the second floor.
So that causes a bit of a problem, as you know.
Yes.
Her lease is up in St. Charles at the end of January. So she was hoping to get in there as quickly in February as possible after the city council meeting and if we approve this evening.
So
And so-
what you say, it's true, and that's one of the things is he's not asking for this tonight as a special use, he's asking for
Right,
it.
right, right.
Understand.
He's not bringing, and because of that, he's not bringing a special use application for this. It's within the purview of the Plan Commission to say, we want it as a special use, but the trouble with that is that it would cause a delay in the sense that now his tenant will have to go back through and renotice this to come back to another hearing.
May I ask a
Go ahead.
question, though? I didn't think a special use was an option for me to come in with this evening based on the,
Well, you were proposing it as a permitted use.
right.
So
So
you
we
wouldn't
could
bring in
have-
a special use for a permitted use.
So we could have come in this evening and proposed this as a special use just for that property.
Yes,
Yes.
you could. As a text amendment, you can ask for it as a special use, or you can ask for it as a permitted use. And you asked for permitted use, so there was no reason not to now, other than how it's decided.
Now, is there a reason that we couldn't, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there. Since this is low or no impact uses that we're talking about allowing as a special use, is there a reason that we couldn't allow that as a permitted use? I mean, is there any situation in which that's going to be a problem? Because if there isn't, then there's no reason anybody should have to go through the special use process if it can be a use by right, because it's not going to be disturbing anybody.
On a non-street level.
Right,
On a
right,
non-street
on a
level.
on an upper or a lower level, no impact type of fitness classes as a permitted
that-
use.
It's just, obviously, Cindy is aware of that, but it's harder to go, what is the definition of low impact, no impact? You know, what I mean,
Yeah.
and we
could
do have
state these- We could
definitions.
state these 4.
I would limit it to those 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can we
Because we
say
know
it's
they
a
were.
special use?
Not unless he has to come back and that messes up his tenant.
You can, but that's,
She could start her build-out, because she signed a lease and do the build-out, and we can approve this as a special use in February?
We
Before
were told that
Before the paint dries?
she shouldn't do anything in there until something's
Right,
approved.
right, that's probably,
Well, can't
that's
we-
probably
Yeah,
wise,
who knows what council might do, or.
right.
Can't we switch it tonight?
You mean switch it to a
You-
special use
this is a-
application?
Yeah.
He's a petitioner asking for his petition. You have the right as plan commissioners to determine what you think is the proper way to treat this use.
So if I said right here, okay, I would like to amend this to a special use application for this specific use at that specific property, I could do that right now, or would I have to come back a month from now?
You could ask for this to be a special use if you wanted to.
Can that
That's
be
just as a
approved?
text amendment. That's not as a special use application. Do you see? One is just saying, it's not even listed as a use right now.
Correct.
So you're trying, and there's two choices. You can make it a permitted use or a special use.
Okay,
And your application,
I understand what my application was.
okay.
But is there a
So
way
could
for
you
me-
change it to a special use? Sure, but is that what you want to do?
Would that allow this use at that property? And I would be able to get in front of city council if you guys approve that use in February?
He's
there
asking,
any
can
way
you
he
make
can
an
get this
application now?
Well, you mean late February because we have to notice this again.
Well, see, that's
You
what
have
I'm
to go
saying.
through- you have to
So
go through
you have,
another
we have to
hearing,
go through
another
this
process.
process
Yes.
again.
You have to go through the
You
formal
mean,
process.
there's no way we can flip it tonight?
You can
Yeah, but he
you can
didn't
flip
formally-
it to a special use. It's just, we physically can't approve this as a special use because we don't have an application from performance or peak performance or peak fitness as a special use. It's very specific.
And you hadn't notified neighboring properties
Right,
of a
right,
special
right.
use versus a
Right.
permanent.
The legal
happen.
portion of it, it's not
So it's,
set to do.
right. So it's worth spending some time, the six of us or whatever, discussing, if we did this as a permitted use on non-first floor within B2, B3, excuse me, do we see ramifications if it's if it's limited to these four uses? Do we see implications throughout the B3 district, which is Third Street essentially, right? So I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, I mean, I still think even if you limit it to those, it leaves room for negotiation as to what those mean. So then it's a permitted use by right. And so how do you define each of those, each of those four items?
And the other thing that we want to look at too is just, as you discuss a special use, is what's the reason, what's the impact if it wasn't one of these? And Cindy, help us again with that. If it's not a low impact and it's on the second floor as a special use, what's the impact we're trying to control on that?
Noise, vibration,
Disturbing of other
a
tenants.
mess,
Okay, so,
not to mention
Okay.
the integrity of the building.
okay,
It could be a disaster.
okay.
Basement, maybe not so much.
No, I kind of feel like those four specific things, are there known definitions for those? Are those four things, are they, you seem to be knowledgeable in the fitness industry. Are those four things that are pretty well-known definition-wise, or no? Are they,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yoga, you're on a mat. There's not much that goes on there. Bar,
Now, let's pick apart each, so yoga, noise and vibration.
None.
Really none?
No.
And that's a pretty understood if somebody said yoga to 10 people, they'd all have a similar
they would all know,
view of what that should look like, right?
right?
Ballet bars?
Bar, that means you have this big bar and you do stretching exercises like you do before you start doing ballet dances. Of course, they don't actually do the dancing
Right.
because that creates noise,
Right.
vibration, and a mess. But you get the advantage of the stretching, and it really helps you with your core, and it's great.
So
Very
Cindy,
helpful.
is, forgive my ignorance, is it one of those bars attached to a wall, or are these individual bars that you're,
No, it's a bar usually on wheels, and so that they can be moved. Sometimes they are attached to a wall,
like the
but
horizontal bars like for ballet? That
Yeah.
Put your foot up there and lean forward and stretch and grown.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay, so that seems pretty,
that's straightforward.
that's
That's-
pretty
and that-
benign
yeah.
as far as
That's,
what's
and
going
that's
on
like you can
underneath.
go to a park district or a health club and sign up for a ballet bar class.
For a bar class, yeah,
So that would be something that would be known in the industry, or, right?
right.
So the third one would be, what's the third one?
Core
Core
conditioning.
conditioning, that's the one I think is very broad, because what you do to improve your core could vary, right? It could be noisy or vibration. Are you doing repetitive,
Yeah, that could get kind of funny, but it is usually stretching or you have like a ball that you like move from side to side, or you're on a big ball where you like do stretching over it and that
Okay.
type of thing. So that's the type of thing it is. It's not where you're doing cardio.
Okay.
Cardio is noisy and cardio is obnoxious if you have people that are
Right.
underneath you.
would it help if, and then the last one's flexibility training, which is stretching essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would it help if we caveated all those by saying no impact, non-cardio?
Yeah, that
No.
would be very helpful.
Flexibility training, no impact, non-cardio, core conditioning, no impact, non-cardio, ballet bars, and no impact, non-cardio.
They call this low impact in here. Is changing it to
Yeah,
no
right,
impact,
right.
making this something
I was
different?
thinking that it might be enough fudge room to say low rather than no,
That's what-
because,
yeah.
I'm sorry, no impact, you know, I think.
Right.
And I think what Justin said too is, some of this you're gonna depend on this, in this instance, in second floor.
Right.
Is the landlord is going to watch
Right,
that
the
this is
tenant
not gonna be a
underneath will
problem.
speak up.
So, yeah, there'd be some normal stuff.
Now, what if it's, so in this particular, if we say we make this a use by right, and in this particular instance, you've got a tenant underneath who has rights written into his lease, so that if there is a problem, they can speak up and the noise or whatever it is would be taken care of. But is there another situation in which the tenant underneath might not have those rights, and if there was a problem, they couldn't get,
Every lease is specific,
right?
but one of the core principles in a commercial lease is a right to quiet enjoyment. It's a core legal principle of a commercial lease that protects tenants in their spaces that they're leasing. And so I can't speak to every commercial lease and how they're written, but that's a core principle in almost all commercial leases.
Even if the noise-making tenant is doing something that is allowed in the space, would they be able to say, but I'm allowed to do this here, so
Yeah,
too
it'd be
bad?
something like excessive construction, or, things they're constantly working on their space, and there's always hammering away. That'd be, it's allowed, but obviously it prohibits your ability to enjoy your property.
So do you have the right, as that tenant who's being disturbed, to have the other tenant
So if we
not
allow.
be able to do it?
Right, if we allowed somebody to go in there and it was a use that was allowed, and we allowed them to go in there, and they caused noise that caused disturbance to the tenant next door or down below, that tenant down below could look at us and say, all right, now we're gonna go after you because you violated our right to quiet enjoyment in our space, because we allowed that use to go in next door. That next door tenant might not be doing anything wrong, but as a landlord, we've caused that breach. I don't know if that answers your question at all.
Well, it does, I just can see a mess for that tenant, and you've got, somebody goes to court or whatever, Nobody wants to set up a situation that's going to result
Yeah.
in an unhappy,
And hopefully with the
Happy
low
tenants.
impact language and limiting it to those four types of exercise, being specific to that, it minimizes the risk of that happening.
yeah, I personally am comfortable, if we limit it to this, that it's unlikely that there would be a disturbance.
In a perfect world, I would like to see this as a special use, but we're being asked to consider it a little quicker and as a permitted use, so. If, I'm not saying we're going that direction, but if we decided the special use was our preference, when could this gentleman be back in front of us?
Probably the second meeting of March 28th, February 28th.
So then he'd go before council
So-
in March.
He'd go before council in March. That would be the,
Too late for for 2 weeks from now.
Couldn't give
I
notice.
believe, what is today? No, it's possible, February 14th, I guess. I have to look at that now that I think about it. Those are 14 days in February, not there yet, so.
Right.
We have to notice it, yeah, we'd have to notice it probably on Monday. You know, Tuesday. I mean, we don't have an application in. Obviously, that could be remedied. You know, I get, it just goes back to, if you don't feel comfortable with it as a permitted use on the second floor or whatever, and you feel like it should be a special use, then we just go through with what you think, you know, the concerns are, that it can't be controlled by that, and then we can work.
I mean, what's driving my thought process is that Third Street is a unique situation in town, and the integrity of Third Street is important. And if we were able to consider this on a case-by-case basis, considering the immediate impact of that use at that property on its neighboring tenants and neighboring properties, that would be the best solution, I think. If the body wants to go forward tonight, I can support permitted use, but I think we're better off as a special use. If
I
we
mean,
could
you've
do
already
that,
narrowed
but
the-
it's a 2-week delay.
The category of health and fitness clubs, which has a more of an aerobic tilt to it probably. You know, I mean, it's a wider range. So if you do reduce this to several specific areas of low impact, you've already addressed some of these concerns, maybe not everything.
Conversely, that's an argument actually for going a special use route, because we could go back to the broader definition of health and fitness clubs, because there will be some lower level locations on which a health and fitness club would be perfectly appropriate. So if it was a special use with the broader definition, we could, on a case-by-case basis, decide that that broad definition was fine. Whereas in this particular incident, maybe an upper floor, we might, in this course of approving a special use, say it has to be limited to these 4 things. But if we approve this use by right, then anybody who wants health and fitness is still not allowed either way, use by right or special use.
Well, you're not eliminating the health and fitness category. You're
This
adding-
district you are.
We would be,
Right. It's not allowed in that category right now.
right, and we would not be allowing it, and I guess I'm saying we could,
And under this, you
accomplish
still
more.
wouldn't be allowing it, right? Because you're creating a new category. that's
correct,
not-
but we
right.
could save additional public hearings if we made it broader but under special use. Because then somebody who came in with a health and fitness proposal would already have the special use in place to be the basis for their application.
So if we went that route, we would endeavor to approve health and fitness as a special use in the B3 district. We'd see this gentleman in 2 weeks with an application for that property, whereby we would likely limit it
We
to
would
these
limit
4
it.
uses of not low impact.
Right, in this
Yeah,
particular,
as part of the permit,
get a
yeah.
special use for the low impact. But the next guy coming in with a basement location, say, could come in and get his
Yeah.
health and fitness and do whatever he wanted, assuming we thought it wasn't going to be disturbing anyone.
Now, to muddy this a little bit still, I mean, in the report, I have, special use criteria, which is what you're talking about, things that you can look at if this came in as a special use.
Right, you do.
But the last category I have is the future zoning ordinance, and that's where we're right in the middle of this right now, is we're in the month of, next week, we're having our first meeting with the downtown commercial brokers, and then we're having 2 meetings in February regarding the zoning ordinance. And in there, we do have what I talked about is fitness clubs as personal services are recommended to be permitted use above the ground floor and allowed as an accessory use in this new district, residentially scaled commercial mixed use, which would be in this area, on the first floor facing Third Street, as long as the fitness club is less than 40% of the principal use. So there's a principal use there, but it's smaller behind it. And the permitted retail use is located on the Third Street frontage. So this is where you can have a space behind the building that could be more of a accessory use, and the larger use is the retail use out front. So these are a couple of reasons
But
why.
as permitted, not as special use.
Correct.
Right, so what you're saying not only muddies it, it makes this irrelevant if that new zoning ordinance is
Well, it's something that would be debated. This is only, as a draft, and we're gonna go through public hearings, but I'm just saying, currently, one of the things that we have listed as personal services, and this is, nail salons and some of the other things that we, beauty and things, is permitted above the ground floor and allowed as an accessory use, if less than 40% of the principal and permitted retail use is located along Third Street. So, I mean, there are some factors that we're looking at in having this use, so.
That second floor, what you just read off, the second floor, does that include the auxiliary use, or is the second floor differentiated from the first floor in what you just read there? Sorry to ask, but
That's okay.
it sounded different when you
Yeah.
first read it.
Yeah, it's allowed on the first floor for parcels fronting Third Street if the floor area does not exceed 40%,
That's the first floor.
and the retail use is located in the front. So
What did it
that
say?
says first floor.
Right.
And then, above first floor, it is a permitted use.
So for instance, you
Without
could
those
sell water
limitations.
bottles on the 60% of the space up front, and in the back room, which is no more than 40% of the total first floor space, you could do your stretching.
Right, and on the second floor, you could have aerobics and bounce everybody's wine glasses down below. And it would all be by permitted use, used by right.
I'm just putting out what we
Right,
have
right,
here
right. No,
as
but it's
personal services.
important.
And it is, what you said is, it is second floor would be a permitted use. So that's where,
Okay, so that
reflecting
might
in
or
that.
might not be adopted. I mean, it could be
Correct.
amended even before it goes up for adoption to
It'll come to us
eliminate.
eventually.
Or we
Right,
see it.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just saying that this is, right, exactly.
You
This
might
is
get
just
input
draft.
on noise and vibration from the community, which is
Correct.
the intent.
Yeah, the
to have that
tenants will let
dialogue
you know
to
that-
impact the final proposal, right?
Yeah, the
Yes,
tenants
that's
are gonna
correct.
let you know what's
Whatever we
going
do here tonight is probably going to last a few months and then be,
Well, it can be, and I mean, that's one of the things you want to think about, and,
Or it could be absolutely consistent with what gets adopted too.
right.
Yeah.
it seems to me that what is likely to happen with that particular portion of the new zoning ordinance would be, since we're all now very aware, thanks to you, your application of this issue, is that this group is likely, if it comes before us, allowing this as a use by right on the second floor with no restrictions, to say, hey, that's not going to work, and you're going to have to limit second floor to something that's low impact, or make it a special use or something like that.
Right.
That makes me want to make this a use by right with the low impact for him tonight, because I can't see setting up a whole special use process for this gentleman that we're going to have the opportunity to change one way or another in the next few months anyway. So why make him go through that when we know it's all coming back to us to change anyway?
That's true.
Let him go ahead and get his business started.
What are the chances that something doesn't come out of the community forums and comes to us eventually this year?
What's the chances that?
Do you anticipate that it's highly likely that you're gonna come to us with this new zoning request?
Oh, yeah.
As a-
I mean,
as
it
a
has to have
product.
it has to have a public hearing before the plan commission.
Yeah,
Right.
it's something long overdue. We've needed to
I agree.
adjust the
I agree.
downtown
It's like
districts
since
after the plan.
2012 or
I
20,
mean, we
yeah.
created the downtown master plan, and we have
Right.
not adjusted the zoning to conform to the plan, so
But,
No, but I was just trying to get a feel for, because it's been this long.
It has
that
been a
Are we
while.
now likely to see the fruits of your
That's
labor
correct.
subsequent to this approval, so that we're gonna make it broader and more permanent, or as permanent? or-
and one of these new areas that we have, I mean, as David has gone over through this, we've consolidated a lot of uses. We're just calling them retail. We're not trying to name every retail use or service use. And in this one, we're calling personal services. Other towns use that phrase. So then it goes to a definition of what's included in personal services. This is where the scrutiny might come by this committee about what kind of things are involved in the personal services. Well, maybe it's not every fitness club. Maybe it's only yoga studios, or, that's something that would be discussed down the road, as far
right,
as.
what's in, what's out.
If it's
Yeah.
broader than those four categories, we'd like it to be a special use.
Correct.
Yes.
That's in play.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of talk about what should be a special
Right.
use in that, on Third Street, obviously. That's going to be critical for,
So
Yeah,
we're gonna change everything?
Are we gonna what?
We're gonna change all that then?
Change all of,
What is? We're gonna
Well,
change the whole
there's-
thing?
There's a number of changes. This is a comprehensive rewrite of our zoning ordinance for the downtown. So there's a lot of changes about, some of them you won't notice so much, and others you will. I can't go into, I mean, as much, there's a draft out there now that people can look at and see what the changes are, and we're in the midst of trying to put that out for public opinion, and David did a notice of everybody in the downtown. He sent a notice to everybody about this ordinance so people can look at it. It's available out there.
We received the notice.
Yeah, so, but
So
there's
if
changes, yes.
So if we okay this tonight and don't make him go through the 2-week thing and all that stuff, we can still get rid of the health and fitness thing.
Well, no, if they get the right to open this as a special use, they would be allowed to continue, but there
No,
wouldn't
he would be allowed to, but we could
Yes,
nix
future,
it.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
but a more
Most of the-
permanent solution.
In the interim, if somebody wanted to open up a yoga stretching bar facility on a sub or above floor, they could do it within the existing B3.
Correct, because this
The
would be a
interim.
text amendment
Correct.
to the B3. It's not just in a PUD. If it were dots in place, this would be a whole different situation because it would just affect dots in place.
Right.
As it is, we're dealing with all the B3 spots in
Right,
town.
right, right, as shown on the map.
Cindy, the new downtown zoning ordinances, I was involved in the committee to work on that, makes the downtown zoning match up with the master plan for downtown, because there were discrepancies where the downtown plan would recommend certain uses on certain sites, but then the zoning ordinance didn't even allow those uses to be on that site because the zoning ordinance was behind. Or instances where there were so many already built uses that would become non-conforming that it didn't make any sense to make a whole street no longer conform to the zoning code. It made more sense to make the code match what was already there, particularly on the residential side, in terms of the number of units that could be on a particular lot or whatever, rather than saying, well, all these multifamily have to be converted now, because they know, it just kind of makes it all match up with the master plan.
Right.
That was the objective. So it doesn't change the things that protect downtown, like making the first floor retail, as much as enable people who come forward after reading that master plan to actually be able to do the things that are in the plan. So
Right.
it makes sense.
Because I just don't like the idea of a health club in B3. I really,
And we'll still have that
Like it.
opportunity, beyond these 4 uses, to have an opinion on that.
Right.
Yeah, in a new ordinance,
I think
yeah.
we're pretty safe.
Yeah.
I mean, Cindy, part of the reason that Justin and Shodine, et cetera, are coming forward is there are some of those places are hard to lease on second floor. They show
Right.
retail people, and a lot of them say, he can speak to that. No, I want to be on first floor. In this instance, it's not so easy, but other places, it's harder to get people to go up the stairs to retail. And so that's why office uses, which are quieter, I know, but other types of uses are allowed on the second floor because generally retail won't venture up.
right.
Yeah. So that's why it becomes a attractive use, because some of these places are vacant, and it's helpful, but we want to look at the impact, and I think you guys are discussing those.
The office market is still very tough here. It just is. When you see the office pick up in Chicago, then it picks up in Oak Brook, and eventually it makes its way out to the Randall Road corridor, and we're still behind right now.
Okay. Any other discussion? Yeah.
What's the
Ron.
square footage?
You asked me a tough question like that. I think it's about 1,200 square feet.
For both spaces.
Isn't it? Is it a little more than that? I think it is about 1,200 square feet. It's 500 and 700.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's not as
that's,
big as I thought.
4+ parking spaces that they figure they're gonna need for this?
Well, it's in a moratorium, all the downtown, so there is no parking they would be required to provide.
Okay.
It's banked. Any other comments?
Paul, I'd like some more information. You mentioned there's a brokers meeting for that? planning?
Yeah, on
commission?
Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys should have had notice on that.
I don't, I'll talk to you afterwards.
I think it's
but
7 o'clock here.
I'd love to be a part of that. so,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think, Dave was on our committee,
Okay,
so.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll
and
find out. Okay, I'll talk to him.
It's Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
Okay,
Isn't there
thank you.
3 meetings? The first one was kind of like more for owners, the second one is more for
Yes, residents and public, yes.
residents, others affected, or and the third is general public or something.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I think for this use, and since we've got this other stuff going on, I could support the way Mim was leaning in taking this on as a permitted use, subject to low impact and the 4 specific uses, so. Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Celeste?
Okay, Evans?
Yeah,
Close?
aye.
Okay. Lighting?
We're voting.
Aye.
Mead?
Aye.
Slivka?
Aye.
Stevenson?
Aye.
Stocking?
Aye.
Passes.
Good.
No, not yet. We haven't voted
Just to
yet.
close the hearing. Now we got to vote on the,
No,
Come up with a recommendation.
now we got to do the recommendation.
Now, Paul, the specific language is not in here per se, it's just
It is
under
not.
under the request section, right?
Right, under the request, and then you would come up
And I'm
with,
going to come up with a
Correct.
caveat.
correct. You would
Instead
do
of
that,
what
expand the list of permitted uses
Right.
to,
Include
right.
Yep, here we
the
go.
following.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for a zoning ordinance text amendment to section 11-6D-2 to expand the list of permitted uses in the B3 business district to include low-impact exercise uses to include yoga, ballet bars, core conditioning, and flexibility training, subject to the findings of fact contained in the staff report.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Oh, go ahead.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, interrupt. Did you say on the second floor?
And limited to uses, to uses other than the first floor.
Okay,
retail
because, yeah, it's
space.
above or below, but yes, if that's your interest.
Is it and limited to uses what?
To use, and limited to use, to spaces not on the first floor. So,
Not on the,
first floor retail level, yeah.
all right, and Evans, second.
I second.
Okay.
Okay.
Evans?
Aye.
Lighting?
Aye.
Okay. Mead?
Aye.
Slivka?
Aye.
Stevenson?
Aye.
Stocking?
Aye.
Passes.
All right, very good.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thanks for the discussion.
Thank you, Jason.
All right,
Yeah, you too.
thank you. All right.
This is a plan for the February 4th meeting. I guess
February
I could mention that, well, our next meeting is, go ahead.
No, no, I mean,
Oh, okay.
I think it's on you.
Our next meeting is scheduled for February 14th, so unless I was going to notice this, we don't have anything planned for that at this time. Nor necessarily the second meeting at this point. We have Greenhouse Point, where we talked about the Western Avenue. That's in now, but that'll be a while probably before that gets, probably March again. Oberweis is still getting ready, maybe within a week or two, to resubmit their plans, but we've already gone through them a couple times, but they reduced the size of their building is what primarily they're working on. And then Hamilton Place is still revising their plans, so we're going through, that's a final, it doesn't need a notice of a public hearing, so that could still come in, we'll
What's
see
Hamilton
March.
Place?
Which one is Hamilton Place again?
It's Citron Place.
Oh, that's
right.
right.
They
that's
changed
right.
the
You told us
name,
last time
yes.
they changed
They
the name.
renamed it.
Gotta get used to it.
So that's, yeah, that's a summary of what we have right now, so.
Okay.
When's Fresh Time gonna open? Seems like it
February.
says forever.
There's an email yesterday that came out.
Oh, is there?
It's opening in
Okay, I missed
February.
that.
Okay.
Oh, how are the things going for the charrette?
The RFPs came in yesterday. I
good.
believe we received five
Oh, excellent.
5 proposals for that. So there's a group that will be evaluating them, and then I think the recommendation will go in February. So that everybody right now is just diving into them and trying to evaluate, what they think is the best deal, and then evaluate the best proposal, and then they'll talk as a committee and come out and make a recommendation to city council. And then they have like 2 or 3 months to try to get everything going and ready, and then they'll have a meeting. What was set up for like the end of May, to have everything, like research and design and things, a lot of stuff going on. And then to prepare for the charrette, there's a lot of pre-work
Right.
that's involved in this. And then this, again, this is different than others, things that people may have heard from charrettes in the past is once they finish this, what comes out of the charrette in general, they'll have 2 or 3 months, I think it's 2 or 3 months, maybe it's 8 weeks or so, to put the plans together to come back to the public, to the plan commission. So, I mean, it's a real, it's an aggressive, proactive way of working with the site and trying to get, that a lot of groups are going with. And again, it's done within the public's eye
Okay.
about
So
what's going on.
we'll hear about this.
Yeah, so, yeah, definitely. I mean, you guys can attend the meetings. The meetings are, I want to even say like a number along in a week, several of them.
Yeah, once
so,
it gets rolling, you kind of just continue to cycle through it.
Yeah.
Do you suggest we attend these B3 zoning meetings?
Well, it's not just B3, but
But it's-
the zoning, yeah. And ask the questions, yes.
There's 2 in February, right?
2 in February, yes. Yeah. So, definitely just looking, questions is like you would. I mean, we deal with just like an applicant. We deal with them hearing them up now and thinking about the answers, or we can go to a plan commission meeting, so we should know the soft spots. I mean, the last major, I think, update we've done to the zoning ordinance was in 1995, and now it's tweaks and text amendments since. But now this is going to be major changes, district changes. It won't be a B3, it'll be an RSCM, so it's
Yeah, it's
Right.
comprehensive
yeah.
across the board.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, so it's different, but it's what we think is gearing us up for this
Yeah.
next century, so.
It's gonna
Right.
be good. It's gonna be good. Anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving that house.